who is Boo's parents? Wait, who the fuck is Mr. Gibbs?
It has taken us a mere 20 months, but I think we have finally gotten to the bottom of one of the greatest Pixar mysteries of all. The identity of Boo's father, aka Mr. Gibbs. And
wait,
not
what?
only that, but I think we've identified her real mother as well.
No way, bro.
If you are unfamiliar with the Mr. Gibbs theory thus far, here is a brief recap. Mr. Gibbs is the unidentified father of Boo from Monsters, Inc., whose real name is Mary Gibbs. And for being a 2-year-old who can mostly only say the word kitty, she is an insanely popular character and kind of the crux of the entire Pixar theory. Well, I say she can only say one word,
honestly,
but she did also have that one-hit single.
Sitting shout along, and all in here's this Kong, then one lemon long.
Oh, great. Now that's going to be stuck in my head all day. And because she is so essential to the Pixar theory, much speculation has been done about her and whether or not she appears anywhere else in the Pixar verse or whether or not the rest of her family appears anywhere else. Many people have speculated about this little girl in Toy Story 3 who, yes, does look like an older Boo and who happens to be playing with a kitty doll which has the same color scheme as Sully.
Oh my
and I
God.
agree, she
What
is
the
a great candidate because you don't even know her name, so sure, why couldn't it be Mary Gibbs? And the answer is because Lee Unkrich himself has said she's not Mary Gibbs, so... Moving on, speculation has also been thrown around to Bonnie, Violet Parr, and even Darla from Finding Nemo, and while good arguments could be made for any of them, the problem is their names. They're not named Mary Gibbs, and that's kind of a deal breaker. From there, the trail was picked up by friend of the channel, Seamus Gorman, who came up with an interesting thought. What if Boo is a super? Because while we're never given an outright display of her powers, she does seem to have some supernatural tendencies involving either teleportation or invisibility. And I know what you're thinking. Maybe this is just one of those, hey, how did you get over there tropes. And the movie's all like,
by all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Just good old-fashioned cartoon tomfoolery, am I right? And I really feel like people don't use the phrase tomfoolery enough. We should really bring that back. Let's go. Hashtag tomfoolery.
No,
but this is a universe that includes supers, so as far as I'm concerned, we're good, and we get at least 3 examples of her using her powers. Like here when Sully puts her back in her room, but then poof, she's right behind him. Or here when she's clearly in this stall, but then isn't. Or here when Sully runs into her room, sets her down, trashes everything, drags a bunch of stuff back into the monster roll, flushes it down the toilet, and thinks he's done with all this tomfoolery. And then, no, she's on his back.
How the fuck did I never notice that? Dude, my little kid brain could not fucking pick that up.
She's got powers, but if she has powers, then the real question is, who are her super parents? Who are Mr. and Mrs. Gibbs? And the working answer for at least Mrs. Gibbs for a while has been none other than an older Violet Parr. She fits so well. She's got the invisibility power she could pass on, the long black hair that matches Boo's, and if she got older and got married, her name would change. It all seems so great. But who she might have married, who the mysterious Mr. Gibbs is, has proven insanely difficult to solve. One, because 14 years and 1 movie later, Violet hasn't gotten any older at all, and 2, and this is really the big important one, Violet is not the mother. We've been looking for the wrong answer all this time, but it just can't be Violet. It's simple math and a few posters. So let's break it down. The first Incredibles is set in 1962, which you can see on this newspaper right here. Violet is 14 years old, meaning she was born in 1948, 1 year after the Parrs got married in 1947. Boo, on the other hand, is 2 years old, and placing exactly what year it is in the human world during Monsters, Inc. is a little bit trickier, but our best guess is 1955, based on the fact that multiple kids in different parts of the world have these vintage Disneyland posters hanging in their room. I mean, if it was just one kid, that would be one thing, but the fact that the posters are in multiple rooms at the same time points to the park having just opened, to being really popular right then, and that was in 1955. Plus, the 50s is when Woody's Roundup would have been really popular, and kids would be most likely to have toys from the show, and Boo happens to have a Jessie doll in her room right here. But in
Damn.
1955, Violet would only be 7 and very incapable of giving birth to a child. So really, she's not a contender
Yeah,
for this
dude.
title at all.
then who
But so
is
then
it?
who? It's
Yeah,
so
what the
hard to figure
fuck?
out because, well, all the superheroines have secret identities, and the list of other women we know about isn't very long. I mean, Elastigirl, we know who she's married to. Violet, we just proved isn't, and then Edna, I mean, Edna. Wait,
Dude.
Edna?
Wait.
Maybe. No. Maybe?
Parenting is a heroic act, done properly.
Okay, stick with me here. Let's get
There's
some of the
no
basics out of the
fucking
way.
way.
Could Edna
There's
be
no fucking
Boo's
way.
mother?
No,
First
there's
of
no
all,
way.
Edna would have been old enough in 1953 to have given birth to a child. Plus, she has the requisite black hair and is half German and half Japanese.
I almost don't want it to be Edna. Like, that's just kind of depressing.
And Boo is arguably of Asian descent. Plus, Edna would have been around a lot of supers who she reveres very highly.
I used to design for gods.
Now, it is true that in Incredibles 2, she does say, fortunately, she was never afflicted with children. But that doesn't mean she didn't give birth to one, just that she wasn't given the burden of raising one. By the way, if you'd like to see me struggling to raise the cutest child ever, I recommend you check out Jonathan Carlin vlogs by clicking the card. So is it possible that Edna had a child and gave it up for adoption? I think so. She is obviously highly career-driven and highly successful. Even post-superhero work, she's considered one of the top designers in the world for just regular models.
Supermodels. Nothing super about them.
Also, can we just note that everyone totally skates past Edna's vast array of technology? I mean, look at this place. It is straight up
seriously.
ridiculous. She literally invents invisible clothing that can survive missile attacks. Also, she has missiles. The point is, I can totally see a 15 years younger Edna deciding to give up a child, especially if the father wasn't willing to stick around. And, in fact, there is even evidence of that exact thing happening.
Men at Robert's age are often unstable, prone to weakness.
What an interesting sentiment from someone who is not married. I mean, it definitely sounds like maybe she's had some rough relationships in the past. Not that I think anyone could ever really
Dude,
emotionally
there's just
harm
no
Edna. She seems
way.
like invincible.
Confront the problem. Fight. Win.
But doesn't mean she can't have had bad relationships with men, and that line certainly seems to suggest so. And babies just don't fit into Edna's lifestyle. Even in Incredibles 2, she is leery of even being around Jack Jack and is only interested in him after he starts demonstrating his insane array of powers. Although I will say, despite her not wanting to quite touch him or anything, the moment she thinks he's actually in danger, she springs to action. So maybe she does have a little soft spot. And again,
dude, she's
let's go
probably
back
just pretending like she doesn't give a fuck. but
back
she
to
really
that
does.
line.
Parenting is a heroic act.
Which is another odd sentiment from Edna for someone who doesn't
have
have
a
a
kid.
kid and who is
Yeah.
avidly avoiding them. Why would Pixar opt to make her so wise about parenting? It seems so outside the area of her expertise. Although to be fair, she does whip Jack Jack into shape in under 17 hours in what has to be one of the funniest scenes in all of cinematic history. Although really maybe it's all down to Mozart because both Edna and Kara played it for Jack Jack and they both kind of seem to figure him out. And finally, if anyone seems capable of giving up a child and successfully moving forward, it's Edna. I mean, her motto is literally
I never look back, darling. It distracts from the now.
a line that also kind of suggests there are things in
Dude.
her past that could cause distractions that she has to actively look forward from. And I have to imagine she'd be pretty attractive to the supers as well. I mean, despite their powers, the suits are an enormous part of superhero.
But wait, if she is her mom, then how does she have powers? It would be her dad? I guess. He's probably about to get
It's
into that.
how they stay protected, and I can so easily see one of them falling for Edna. But who? There are plenty to choose from, and their identities are all hidden. So, who is Mr. Gibbs? Gibbs. We can actually narrow the search a little by just honing in on the supers we know she knows, which are all the ones she lists having died to Cape-related accidents, and all the ones we see at the Parr's wedding, which she is attending. And fortunately, and weirdly, this is the exact same list of people, minus Frozone and Gazerbeam, who were at the wedding but didn't die related to capes. But that leaves us with Thunderhead, Splashdown, Stratagal, Gazerbeam, and Metaman, which is a much more manageable list. And we can actually go ahead and strike Stratagal off of it because the biology. So from there, my first thought was to just cross-reference the powers that we think Boo has with the remaining supers and see if we had a match. And believe it or not, we totally did. We were looking for invisibility and teleportation, and one of those supers actually has both. None other than Metaman, aka Mr. Gibbs. I should note that having the same powers doesn't necessarily mean anything because obviously the Parr's kids don't share their powers, but we do have more to go on. Like, first of all, Metaman has a ton of other powers, including flight, super strength, x-ray vision, sonic screams, magnetic manipulation, and he's able to communicate with aquatic mammals.
Doesn't she scream super
Really
loud?
useful. And the fact that he has so many powers is significant because it gives him the highest threat rating of any super at 9.6, which is even higher than Mr. Incredible. And what was it that Edna said?
I used to design for gods.
Gods indeed. And for someone who worked so closely with so many supers and was so enamored by them, don't you think she would be attracted to the very most powerful of them all? Because I do. And it gets better. Remember the line?
Men at Robert's age are often unstable, prone to weakness.
Yeah, well, guess what? Metaman's NSA file literally describes his personality as indecisive. I mean, he certainly couldn't decide what power he wanted, but also maybe like he just couldn't settle down, like couldn't decide on just one woman. And also actually just below that, it lists him as deeply committed to hero work. As in total workaholic, just like Edna, as in baby would not fit into his hero save the day lifestyle, as in
that's kinda sad.
would give up a child for adoption. And it gets even better because not only do I think Edna and Metaman gave up Boo for adoption, but I can tell you who adopted her.
Do you remember
Wait, what?
Thunderhead? Tall, storm powers. Nice man, good with kids.
Good with kids. Thunderhead is the first super she brings up and the only one she gives any description to, and she happens to mention that he's good with kids. At that point, I was already sold, but then I looked at his NSA file and holy noodles, guys, this is what
Holy
his
fucking
says.
noodles.
Loves kids, adopted single father of 5 children, raising them with the help of his roommate, Scott. And we know that he knew both Edna and Metaman as well because here they all are at the wedding. So, full story. Career-driven, Edna and Metaman get together and have a child, but Metaman is not a very faithful guy, and Edna is so career-focused that they decide to give up the child for adoption. They don't know she has superpowers at the time, but nonetheless decide to give her to their good-with-kids super friend Thunderhead and his roommate Scott. Well, I have to say, just sounds delightful. 2 years after that, she is kidnapped by the monster in her closet and spends some time in the monster world while she helps discover laugh energy before being returned by Kitty. 3 more years later, in 1958, her adopted dad Thunderhead's cape gets caught on a missile and he dies. And 5-year-old Boo
I forgot
spends
about
the rest
that.
of her life looking for the only other father figure she ever knew, Sully, and eventually goes on to become
Sully.
the witch in Brave. God,
Damn,
Pixar.
dude.
Ben, there you go. Edna and
Yeah, guys, if you don't know what he's talking about at the end there, the Pixar theory where she becomes a witch, it's on my channel. Go to my playlist, watch it. It's fucking crazy.
Metaman are Boo's biological parents. Thunderhead is the adopted father. Scott is a delightful guy. Let me know your thoughts in the towel section down below. Do you think
Dude,
it's
yeah,
true?
guys, let me know your comments down below if you think this is fucking real. This is actually crazy. I did not expect Edna to have any, like, relation to this story at all, but it's crazy, and I think it could be possible. So let me know what you guys think, and also leave a like and drop a follow for more theories. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.